My name is Matyayi, as introduced, and I just started a journey in the city. Just to give you some constants, I've been in photography for about a good 9, close to 10 years in the local authority sector, revitalizing local government economies, one of which I started in Matyayi and then came to Chevening, and then and then Windhoek. Quite excited about what we do at the city at the moment. I just want to give you a bit of a short story of the city. The only city in Namibia where we all converge, unlike the other cities, other countries. A population of close to 400,000 residents. That is going to double by 2040. It's going to be 100,000, was what we estimated that. And you definitely have seen a few years ago that we had a drought situation. So everything that Mr. Ibanda was talking about and what Tony was talking about is linking into exactly the effect at the local level in terms of how we find these effects turning around with us. But one thing that's more important also is we're one of the only cities that actually have one of the world-class water reclamation plants in the world, not in Africa, in the world. And we are proud to say that America came to copy from us. I'm not going to run through the first slide. I was given a presentation of leadership and governance. Perhaps a number of you have read a lot of leadership. What is leadership? My context of leadership is very simple. It is the art of persuasion in order to influence decisions. Obama was asked, how do you define the best leaders? It's just make things happen. Just make them happen. So those that make things happen tend to become leaders in the end. What governance is all about, very simple. We've read a lot about it. It's a framework that actually encompasses a number of things that structure systems, processes, in order for an organization to deliver on its mandate, or for a country to deliver on its mandate. And that's a structured way of doing it. Perhaps we can look at the next slide. At the governance level, you will definitely find a number of issues that speak to ethics, sustainability, and leadership. At the moment, every business wants to be sustainable, and they are looking at how business continuity can be built into their systems. And that speaks to the type of leaders that needs to lead that specific institution in order to make things happen. And within the leadership, we realize that ESG has become one of the biggest aspects, and we're going to touch a little bit on it, and what exactly that we need to do as leaders in our organization for us to make a change. Sustainability in leadership, it's very simple. Consider long-term sustainability. How do you strategize in order to become sustainable in the long term? We currently have a vision at the city that says we want to be a sustainable and caring city. Now, you would ask me a question, how do you want to be caring if you're sending reports to us on Qatar? And then you tell us you care all the time you're appearing in the media. But the whole aspect speaks to how do we move in order to provide that basic that you have. Of course, we live in a world that is called VUCA. How do we converge the two? Very simple from a leadership perspective. There are factors of adaptability, system thinking, resilience, stakeholder engagement, and innovation. And within a VUCA concept, it asks us certain questions that says leaders must be adaptable and must be flexible to move with the trend of things that are actually changing. As the environment changes, we need to start adapting ourselves. And within system thinking, the environment should be characterized by complexities and interdependency. Definitely, we find ourselves into a situation where we do not exactly know what to do. When COVID hit us, we didn't know exactly what to do. We scrambled, but you realized after COVID passed, we had strategies. Working from home, flexible working concepts, and we were able to be flexible enough to adopt those systems and see that the company can still continue working in such environments. Of course, resilience, how we have become so stressful. You know, the world has become stressful that it demands a lot from us, health-wise, financially, from all other perspectives, individually, and also just from a company perspective. The board wants you to make profit. At the end of the day, your wife wants to be able to make sure that things work. Your children wants to be going to school in order to work. So it's an intertwined ecosystem of things that are demanded from us, but we need now to remain resilient as we move within the issues that give us those challenges. And you find that we get stressed. Psychologically, we go down, we went down, but we don't get to concentrate on a number of things. Of course, stakeholder engagement quite key. You would have one aspect that I like in leadership. When you were growing up, as you were young, you were dependent on your parents. You were independent. As you were growing further in university, you became independent because you're now on your own. But as you started working, you realize that you are now interdependent because there are a number of things that you like or you want to do. You can't do them because you're an accountant, you're not a plumber. You need a plumber to complement what you need. So it's the same within the context of business. The ecosystem should move in that way. Innovation, of course, we all know we need to innovate. Today, you bank with your app when you're banking with our technology. Of course, that is efficiencies that are being brought about into business in order for us to make sure that the life of people becomes more easier to do business wherever they are, or the convenience that we provide. ESG imperative impact. What ESG is, leaders, I think from a leadership perspective, we're looking for leaders that are responsible for setting ESG goals. Within the board, strategies that needs to actually define or speak to the strategy that is ESG compliant. We must be environmentally conscious. How do we embed those things into our strategies? It requires ethical and sustainable leadership. One of the biggest aspects, you realize that a lot of leaders that are on top, it's a matter of what I think Tony says, it's a balancing effect. Are you making the right decision, or are you making a conscious decision? Now, it borders around whether that decision is ethical. Did you do it for your interest or for the interest of the society? But you get to be tested at the end of the day to see whether you really lived on the test of ethics. This is where we prescribe ourselves to ensure that whatever we do comes back to live or separate us from two issues. One, a conflict in interest, how you balance that. And two, the aspect of mostly biggest part of the segregation of duties. You find that board directors to certain companies would sit on one. You would be aware of the company report that started the issue of governance, and then today we're speaking about your King's report. And that's where governance all started because of the duality of the issue. You are an executive here and you are an executive president or executive chairman. You are making decisions here, or you are recommending here, and then you are also just approving at the end. Nobody looks at the balancing factor of, are you really taking an objective decision for the benefit of the company? And that's what it demands of us in terms of ethics. Aligning with the corporate strategy, that's what I just spoke about. The leadership imperative, what are those things that we need to do? Embrace ESG as a core business strategy, embed it into our businesses, and also promote a culture of sustainability and social responsibility. What we do at the city for a moment, our electricity department is so advanced that they actually measure the electricity we use in all our buildings. And they will tell you every month who are the people that save more electricity at the end of the month. And we make them to win a prize, reducing what you would call costs at the same time the carbon footprint in many ways. Promote culture, sustainability, social responsibility, champion stakeholder engagement and transparency. From a governance perspective, how do we influence the governance structure? Changing board compositions. You will find that a lot of boards will remain on boards and you are continuously on the board. Namibia is advanced in that regard with the promulgation of the Governance Act, where they require the board to sit for not longer than 3 years and not longer than 2 terms. And already can tell you that at least there is a level of independence and objectivity. Governance committees overseeing ESG strategies. We need to set governance committees in our companies that also look at not only financial importance and risks, but how does the risk, how do our risk strategy also involves environmental issues that we should audit ourselves against. Of course, the imperatives is to establish these governance committees, incorporate ESG into corporate policies and procedures, and prioritize ethical culture as a governance pillar. We spoke a little bit about that. I'm going to jump that one. From a local municipality perspective, what is it that we are required in our industry? We use a lot of affluents, electricity, chemicals. How do we reduce that? We are looking at exploring opportunities that will reduce your gas emissions. Getting into electric cars, we're not here at the end. The European countries have a target that they need to meet, that they need to meet, and we need to actually follow suit as well. Waste management, how do we recycle waste in order for it to rather become more of a commodity instead of a liability? Because at the end of the day, we don't have a waste disposal site. We might use that for, land servicing and provide housing, but we're using it for a landfill site. Of course, energy, moving from conventional electricity to solar power. We currently are moving in that direction. Namibia has actually adopted a concept called MSB, modified single buyer, where you are required as a company to at least use 30% of the energy you transmit must be coming from solar or wind energy. Of course, how Namibia can best leverage on ESG standards, prioritizing environmental sustainability as a country. Of course, the establishment of the EIF is one of the propeller of some of those government policies that we see today. The Environmental Commission that looks at every issue that is protected in the Act, so that each individual must conduct an EIA study before they can embark on something that is going to damage the environment. Investing in renewable energy, the adoption of green energy that we're currently talking about. Namibia is currently topping the ladder in terms of advocacy in green hydrogen and green energy, and it's become a topical issue. I was talking to some tourist colleagues and they were saying Koreans are coming in at least 3 times a month just to look at what are the opportunities. But what is the balancing factor with the issue of We're going green, yet we're exploring oil in the Luther's Basin. Now, we need to, as a government, look at how we balance those two. Protect our unique ecosystem. We do that the best. We've got one of the best ecosystem protection in Africa, if you should say. One of the best policies. Responsible mining. Of course, mines are required by all means to do a comprehensive feasibility and EIA study in order for them to conclude or start their business and rehabilitate thereafter when they have to close business. So that's some of the laws that Namibia has put up. Governance transparency, reporting every time to the stakeholders now and then so that they know what exactly is going on. How ESG can benefit Namibia as a brand, integrate these ESGs into Namibia brand strategy, enhance its reputation, attract responsible tourism, foster sustainable economic growth, and build long-term partnerships with stakeholders, funders such as your green climate funding that are currently helping the aspect as per the previous speakers. By aligning our brand with sustainable and social responsible practices, how do we do that? I think I don't want to repeat this. It's the same as what I've already spoken about. The Paris Agreement, that is what the colleagues came to speak about here. Sustainable transport, we need to look at some of the strategies, conservation and land management, renewable energy development and national policy framework that actually aligns with ESG. From a local authority perspective, I just wanted to share with you what is it that we're doing under our programs. We currently just launched a procurement of a 25 megawatt solar plant under PPP so that we can reduce and also play our part in that specific space and play within the MSB concept. We still have 125 to put down into the market so that we can supply ourselves. What it's going to do is it's going to reduce your cost as well of electricity at the end of the day because we can buy it cheaper here rather than the way it is conventionally. Of course, we're standardizing the use of LED street lights. Most of the local authorities or towns and cities are moving into LED lights that do not consume a lot of energy, so that we can save even on costs ourselves as companies. Energy saving campaigns, we encourage a lot of our staff members and our community to go on energy saving campaigns. Very small, simple things that we do. Years back, NamPower actually just launched a nationwide campaign of LED lights free of charge. And that might be small, but it's quite big as a footprint in terms of what we do as a country. Of course, building being fitted with energy features. We've got green buildings that are coming up now in the country, especially in the city. I don't want to mention names. We have an initiative as well that we call a car-free day, which we're promoting very rigorously. You realize that as Namibians, we actually are more inclined to rather drive to work rather than cycle. But I think the children in here and those that would be future children will know that there's one thing that you actually picked up when you were at school. Either you saw one of your lecturers that came, a professor with a bike to class. Yeah? You will attest to me that. So this is what you would like to include in some of our car-free day to encourage the movement of you walking to travel by bicycle or by bus, or co-share your car with your neighbors when you're traveling to town. Some of these initiatives again we are promoting in order to make it a livable city for you and also play a part in reducing our carbon footprint. Of course, factors that will impede ESG, lack of board and management oversight, very, very important. At one point in time, you find boards I found one of the boards I've served in when I came around. I asked them what's happening. We did not have a board chart. And you're like, what actually is going on? But when you do the basics, the ripple effect actually comes in. A year after that, we had been making losses of probably 9 million. But a year after implementing all these, charters for the board subcommittees, we realized at least a 6 million profit after tax and interest charged. So some of these things looks very tiny and little, but the more you do them and you implement them, you realize that you become more resilient. Disconnect from business strategy, compliance-oriented approach, inconsistency among escape plans of industries, and lack of assessment and monitoring evaluation. Very key. We put up the strategies, but we don't measure them to see whether we are making an impact or not. And when we don't do that, we impede our role in ensuring that the ESG compliance issues are also part of our aspect. In conclusion, ESG is definitely a factor on leadership, and governance is definitely indisputable. We need to speak about it, we need to be able to embed it in our strategy and into our lives, because if we need to be sustainable, that is what we need to go and do. Consideration of ESG are no longer optional. We cannot negotiate about it. You have seen what the effect is on the climate change. So we cannot continue to negotiate, or we are going to be extinct. Drive long-term sustainability, risk management, stakeholder engagement. Of course, these are your precursors that we need to continue embedding into our strategies, lead to improved performance, reputation, and stakeholders' trust. That brings me to the end of my presentation. I trust that you have taken some, we will engage further on any practical aspect that would actually be more enlightening to all of us. I thank you.